Hi there, welcome to 3Spoonies. We are your hosts, Claire, Joe, and Karen. This is episode number 10, and it is ADHD in Business. Join us as we dive in.
The Awards People is a specialist award writing agency who can help you get the recognition you deserve for your achievements. Over the years, they've gotten to know about and meet so many individuals, charities, companies and organisations that offer amazing products and services but rarely get recognised for it, or who enter awards and never get further than the nomination stage. This is where the Awards People come in, with their experience and expertise in writing multi-award winning applications. Whether you're looking for initial research into what awards are available for you to enter, or support with award nominations or award submission forms, the Awards People are the people for you. 93% of all entries go through to the finals and 81% go on to win their categories. Look for the Awards People or follow the link in the show notes.
I'm Claire from Sparkle's Gift Boutique.
And I'm Joe from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony.
And we are 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. So today we have the wonderful Beth Thomas. Beth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Beth. I am a Certified ADHD Life Coach, co-founder and director of a limited company called Neuroinclusive Link. So that basically is some fancy words for me helping individuals, couples, families, and organizations in various different ways to support their development of understanding their neurodivergence in those various spaces and what they really need to build a life that works for them.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for joining us. So the first thing I want to know, how did you fall into doing all this? Because I feel like you fell into doing all this.
Indeed, that is a very good way of describing it. I feel that I did very much fall into it. I certainly didn't sort of go looking. I think it was a lot of things that fit together and then suddenly was like, oh, hello, I'm doing this and this fits really well. So in a very hopefully concise nutshell, because, ADHD and tangents, I did something completely different when I was at university. I was also not diagnosed at university. So during the majority of my years, I really struggled consistently with a lot of different things that, because they were never really picked up on, were very much internalized as character flaws. So I had all of this kind of challenge and struggle, but I couldn't really, put a name to it or figure it out. So very much carried that with me, graduated and was like, wow, I am super exhausted from doing a million things all at the same time. And again, because I didn't have that awareness, I didn't know that was burnout at the time. So I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to be able to do that helps me start paying off my student overdraft, but also gives me a bit of a brain break? And so I started working in a local gym. I loved it. It had a lot of variety. It had things to keep me very engaged and interested because of that variety. And I really enjoyed it for a time because it absolutely did exactly what I needed it to do. The connections I made were fantastic. I really enjoyed the experiences and the other qualifications I went on to go and get there. However, when I was working there, I did also happen to come across a psychiatrist who at the time was looking for essentially an assistant, so a PA sort of role. And I was like, well, I've just done a literature degree and I'm pretty good at organizing other people. So why don't we give that a go? So that was basically the falling into the position that led to what I do now. So that was around about September 2019. And as we all know, the following year, we all had a pretty terrible time with COVID hitting in the March. So I was furloughed from the gym, had oodles of this time and was like, I have absolutely no ability to just sit and exist with all of this extra time. So I started putting all of that extra time and energy into the practice and managed to build it from a team of 2 to a team of 12, which I became the practice manager for. And that was a really good experience. Lots and lots of different things that created all sorts of different challenges for me to navigate. So again, really aligned with a lot of my strengths as an ADHDer. And I would never forget the very distinctive conversation that kind of recontextualize my entire life, because unless you've been diagnosed as a child, a lot of people will often have some sort of crisis type moment that is the trigger for them going, oh, there's something going on here. Maybe I should go and figure that out. And I didn't really have one like that. Instead, I had a conversation with a psychiatrist who happened to specialize in assessing ADHD. And I said, gosh, isn't it amazing how much I'm relating to all of these people that you're assessing positively for ADHD? And he's just turned around to me really sort of, nonchalant this one time, was like, you do realize that's because you're very ADHD too. And I was like, like big light bulb moment. What? Oh my goodness, really? Oh, okay. That penny drop, that explains a whole bunch of stuff. So that was some of the various things that created that sort of catalyst moment. And by this point, I'm the practice manager. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And he turns around and says, we've got to figure something out that really works for you, because you can't be the practice manager forever, because you've got this lived experience and you've got these opportunities that you could really support people. And as we know, medication is one option, but not the only option for comprehensive support method for an ADHD brain. So that was the steps that led to this path of me figuring out ADHD coaching. And honestly, I loved it. I found an accredited course, put myself on it, and pretty much haven't looked back ever since. And then March, it will be 2 years ago, I made the really tough decision to go independently so that I could build my own coaching practice in a way that allowed for me to show up authentically for the clients that I wanted to serve. So there we go. And I've forgotten the question, so hopefully that answers it.
It did answer, yeah. It was how you fell into doing what you're doing.
There you go.
For people who may not understand what ADHD is, could you give us a broad overview? I know it differs from person to person, and then we'll have a little break. No, we won't have a little break. Yeah, we'll then discuss how it affects you in business and other people in business.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So it's had somewhat of a complex history, and it actually dates back all the way to Hippocrates. It's a fun fact for you, where he was actually able to notice traits of individuals that we can to this day match up with an ADHD profile. But to summarize, at the moment, ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Lots of big, heavy words there, right? And essentially, the simplest way I can explain it is a different way in which your brain and nervous system is built, if we are looking at comparing it to that of a neurotypical person. So it's a bit of a conflict, because every brain is as unique as a fingerprint. So it kind of doesn't make sense that we have these ways to differentiate these neurotypes. But in summary, it is a neurodevelopmental difference. So it is a different way in which your brain and your body is built. Interestingly, not necessarily a deficit. And we can talk about, some of the complications and the reasons why it's very much understood and seen to be a deficit-based disorder now. But I'm of the firm belief that it certainly is not something that is deficit-based. And it's definitely something that can have its unique strengths if you know how to embrace and support them and leverage them and put the supports in place for the things that you might find more difficult than others.
Yeah, I assume it's a deficit because society is not equal and society makes it a deficit, rather than actually being, like with most things, accessibility wise and everything like that. Yeah. Okay, what challenges have you personally found in business, and then with your ADHD, and then we'll have a break. And then we'll talk about what your clients may have found, because I know everybody's different.
I think, great questions. So me personally, I would say it's a lot of the lesser known features that are quite typical of an ADHD experience that don't necessarily belong in the clinical parts of the diagnoses. So with ADHD, you have kind of three main areas. You've got your inattention, you've got hyperactivity, and you've got impulsivity. And again, we've got lots and lots of, still to this day, stigmatized views of what that all actually looks like and how that all actually presents. So yes, I absolutely struggle with getting very easily distracted and struggling with the idea of time. So time does not exist in my brain in the same linear format it might for others, which of course, as a result, means that I will struggle with deadlines and capacity management of, getting the stuff done. And the ever optimist when it comes to time. So I will look at time and be like, yeah, I've got 10 minutes. That is completely enough time for me to answer 40 emails, send 2 invoices and bake a banana bread. That is perfectly acceptable. More often than not, it's definitely not. But that is, why I've gone through a journey of, learning what works for me, what those struggles are, and how I can go about implementing them. So we get all of those typical challenges, but I would say actually the ones I personally have experienced that may have been lesser anticipated were things like imposter syndrome and perfectionism and sensory overload and at points quite debilitating confidence issues as a result of some of those limiting beliefs that I have still, carried along with me that have very much held me back in certain areas. So it will be things like that I will find trip me up and, create those speed bumps more often than the, oh, look, new shiny thing, if that makes sense.
Does, yes. Claire.
We are going to take a short break for some spoonsful of loveliness from our sponsors.
They say everyone has a book in them. Well, that surely was the case for Lisa J. Rivers when she wrote her first book back in 2014. Lisa, a fellow spoonie diagnosed with fibromyalgia many years ago, realised that it was too difficult to get her work published in one of the traditional publishers and found it too expensive with larger independent publishers. So she decided to set up her own publishing company, Green Cat Books, in 2017. Fast forward 7 years, and she's published 6 of her own books and over 100 books by 50 authors from all over the world. All of the books Green Cat Books have published are now listed on the website, and our fellow Spoonies can get 10% off all these books and services. Simply use the code SPOONIE10 at checkout for books, or use the contact link to email Lisa about her services. Go to green-cat.shop to find out more.
Struggling to manage ADHD naturally? Welcome to the Strange Apothecary, where ancient wisdom meets modern alchemy. We offer a range of holistic health solutions specifically designed to support focus and clarity, from handcrafted herbal remedies that promote calm and concentration to the bespoke spiritual guidance. We cater to those seeking natural ways to enhance their mental well-being. Our products are made with love and intention, ensuring the highest quality and efficacy. Discover the transformative power of nature with the Strange Apothecary and begin your journey to holistic wellness today. Welcome back. We are here still with Beth Thomas, and we're discussing ADHD in business. Now, I know you work exclusively with ADHD clients. Do they have different challenges to you in sort of life and running a business? And could you explain some of those for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, to build on, I work exclusively with, what I notice more and more is we've got lots and lots of different overlaps. So it's easier for me to say I work exclusively with neurodivergent people these days. When I first started, I was like, yes, definitely exclusively ADHD. But actually over time, I've really noticed that a lot of my clients will have, ADHD, as they like to refer it to, which is autism and ADHD. I also have ADHD clients that will experience things like dyspraxia, dyscalculia. So it's quite interesting to see those overlaps. And I wanted to just kind of, bring attention to that and say that is part of the neurodivergent experience I'm noticing. And in terms of challenges, there are lots of different ones. And it's so interesting for me as a coach to observe that it doesn't matter what position you are in your business or where you are in your, career development, or what age you are or anything like this. These challenges can be experienced by anyone at any age, at any part of their career, as an example. So I've supported sort of younger clients between the sort of 17 to 25 age bracket who feel very self-conscious and struggle with their confidence and how to advocate for their needs. And they can be really, hard on themselves and like, oh, why can't I just be normal? And then it can be quite validating to say, actually, I have clients that are in their 60s and 70s who struggle with the same things. So in terms of the client-specific challenges, I would say it's sometimes chronic low levels of self-esteem and self-confidence as a result of a lot of these negative experiences that people will go through. having lived in a world not designed to meet their needs or be able to support them in advocating for them. So we've got, you know, those low levels of self-confidence and self-belief and self-esteem. We've also got things I've mentioned already, such as perfectionism and imposter syndrome. We've also got some interesting challenges that do take some time to develop an awareness on, which again aren't always noted in things like formal diagnostic procedures. And these can include challenges with interoception, as an example. So interoception, very briefly, is your ability to recognize your body cues. So are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you sleepy? You know, do you need to go and have a movement break or a quick lie down and decompress? Are you overstimulated? All of these really crucial things that help us know, okay, have I, you know, do I need to take a break? Do I need to go and eat something? And having an awareness on how that can impact your emotional regulation, your, you know, your brain capacity in any given moment to tackle a particular challenge. So interoception, I would definitely say, is a big one I'm noticing. And a lot of the executive functions can also be quite challenging. So our ability to recognize when we're overwhelmed, when we've got quite big feelings that are particularly challenging to move through. Just emotional regulation in general is a big tough one. Other things as well, like impulse control, our ability to self-monitor, again, see how we're doing in those moments. And I would also say ableism. And I think that one is quite a transferable one to all different ways of living and challenges and conditions and disabilities that we see. The idea and just how much it impacts us on a daily basis is that, you know, we see ableism both internalized and within our environments really play into the ability for us to navigate any situation.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that, and stop talking about me.
Not the first time I've heard that, actually, Joe.
Okay, ladies, I'm going to open up to you. Is there anything you want to know?
Yeah, on the side of the positives, what are the really great things about working with someone who's neurodiverse?
Oh, where do I begin? It's my favorite thing to do. I mean, overall, I think it has to be the true, honest privilege for me of watching the transformations. So when I'm working with a neurodivergent client, it's incredibly fulfilling to see them from the beginning of their journey to the end of their journey. And, you know, this amazing, extraordinary level of growth and progression in all of the various things that they might have set themselves out and added along their way. And it gives me goosebumps. I mean, I'm a highly sensitive, highly feeling person, but, you know, being able to support them as they're getting to that place is magic for me. I mean, you know, when their key takeaways start going from, or maybe I'm not a bad and broken person, to I'm really proud of myself, or I did this thing and I loved that, for me is, you know, for me, such a huge deal. So that is one of my favorite things. Being able to create safe spaces is another really big deal for me, because we're dealing with people that sadly may not have ever had that until they have found a coach or a therapist or a supportive network who gets them. I mean, the amount of times I've supported a client who has, and I'm not sure I've had many other spaces like that. That's really quite profound when we think about just how many times we are actually engaging with the world. And if that's the case, how often those times are challenging or negative. And to be able to create that space for someone to say, I totally understand what you're saying. That makes complete sense, is magic, because that's the first time often that they've been validated in what they're going through instead of gaslit or minimized or dismissed. And that for me is another really important part of why I do what I do, because no one is ever mad, bad, broken, or crazy. It's those stories we're telling ourselves as a result of the narratives coming in that lead us to think, well, you know, I must be the drama because that's constantly the feedback I'm getting. So I think those are some of my favorite things.
Love that. I mean, Karen did steal my question, so like, damn it, she stole my question. But it's fine, because I was like, oh, brain work, think of something else. And I have something. Obviously, like, we can tell how much you love what you do and the passion you speak about it with. And I know for all of us, when we started out, it's, you know, you have that bit of a fear and stuff like that. So if you could go back and tell your younger self, or the person starting out before you got your diagnosis, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, that's a really good one. Don't listen to all of the people that's supposed to be telling you things that you're supposed to listen to. No, I'll elaborate on that. So I was actually saying this in a working memory. I can't remember actually when or who, but recently, somewhat recently, I was having a conversation about exactly this. And I said, gosh, if I look back at my school reports, my feedback from teachers, my everything, and I'd actually listened to that forever, I would not be here doing what I'm doing today, because you will be able to see chatty, distractible, disruptive to others in the classroom, essentially, please talk less, be less you, be a bit smaller, more agreeable, so that we can accept you in this box that we've assigned to you. And yeah, thank goodness we didn't listen, right? Thank goodness we had oppositional defiance at points, and we were like, no, I will not do those things. So my advice to that younger part of myself would be, keep fighting to be you, and don't make yourself smaller, and don't compromise yourself to be more accepted by what you think might be those spaces where you think you belong, because you are wild and colorful and creative and empathetic, and a lot of amazing things that can be challenging for others but never diminish the value of. So keep being exactly who you are and figure out the spaces where that fits.
Yeah, it can take a long time to unlearn the society standards that was put on you, and some people never do, and I find that very sad. I mean, my various hobbies over the years, and actually starting a business managed to pull that from me, but it took a long time.
It does. And when I also say what I say, I'd also like to put the caveat that is hard, by the way. It's a really hard thing to do. I can say it almost with a breeze now, and I can make it sound really simple, like just be you. But I can also say from personal experience that took me years of therapy and coaching and supervision and reflective practice to work on that. As Joe said, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, and that's okay, because in a weird way as well, a lot of these limiting beliefs would have kept you safe from things. And so that's something I always like to add when we're thinking about this, is that actually in those moments, these kinds of beliefs have in the past kept me safe from things like rejection and from being vulnerable, which at the time I didn't have the tools to navigate and handle. Whereas I've now built them and I can do those things. But it's a journey, and that's okay.
It's just that right time, isn't it, to kind of, when when people start that journey, I think, of finding themselves and being themselves, it doesn't happen to a certain stage, because it's like your body and your brain know that you're not ready for it. It's not the time to start that journey. Like, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I had lots of opportunities where I was like almost on the edge, and I was like, okay, let's go back a few steps, and that's okay.
But we know the edge is there. We're aware of it.
I can see it, but we're putting a pin in it for now.
Yeah.
What should people do if they are listening now or watching and they suddenly think, actually, that really resonates? Maybe. What should their first step be?
That's a really good question. And I think in terms of specific advice, what I will always say is that it looks different for everyone. So that's okay too. If you don't feel that you have trusted people or access to resources that would be helpful for you, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach. So I would say, maybe as best as possible, try to practice some self-care with curiosity, so that you can start to create a space where that little spark that you've got going on at the moment, that little, ooh, that resonates with me, that's got a little safe space to be explored, so that you can figure out what those next steps look like for you. Be that, I want to go on a diagnostic pathway, I want to go and figure this out formally, I want to get some coaching and find someone that can support me. Be that, I need to go and ask for some reasonable adjustments in the workplace. Whatever those next steps look like for you, as best as possible, try to approach it with gentle curiosity and self-compassion, so that it doesn't become a super overwhelming thing that you feel very isolated dealing with.
Fabulous. So any general tips you can think of for somebody who is neurodivergent and wants to start a business, or is already in business but struggling?
Yeah, lots. Where do I begin? How much time do we
We've got 10 minutes, go.
have? So I would first begin by saying, clarity. Clarity is sometimes a really patronizing word, depending on how unclear I personally feel in the moment. So someone's saying to me, go get some clarity. I'm like, I know that'll be helpful. So when I say that, I mean, go and get some clarity on what you're struggling with at the moment. Why is that? How are you handling it at the moment? What support do you need? So that you can start to understand what is going on for you when this type of a challenge is experienced. That is my reaction to, or measuring, do you have the capacity to navigate these things? Are they urgent and important, or can you delegate them? So clarity for all of these things, I think, is a really helpful point, because for me personally anyway, I know I can get super hyper focused into certain finite details, and sometimes as a result not quite have that capacity to step back and look at everything from a whole perspective. And when I'm in those moments, I can find it quite hard to recognize my own body cues. When do I need to take a break? When do I need to go and refuel myself? Things like that. And when you're stuck in some of those little cycles, that can be really challenging, because again, that's sometimes what kind of increases that brain fog, or creates those challenges with staying regulated. So absolutely figure out what you need that works for you to get that clarity, so that you can figure out the game plan for the next steps. And then the other thing would be to figure out whatever barriers you've got in place, thinking that you are not worthy of leaning into support or asking for help. Because as a very hyper independent sole trader individual, I know how hard that can be from personal experience, to think, oh, actually, yes, I can reach out. So just to really, affirm that it is a sensible, sustainable and scalable business decision to figure out what your strengths are and how to leverage them. And indeed, as a result, what other areas would be far more sensible for you to outsource to, so that someone else can do what they do best, in order for you to continue doing what you do best. Because again, as a sole trader, we might be time poor, we might be financially poor, we might be, energy poor. All of these different things are going to have an impact on what you can do in your business. So be really careful about where you are putting that energy, and whether or not it aligns with your values and strengths, and indeed what you can do to put those supports in place to make sure that those other parts of your business aren't just kind of dropping off in the sidelines, and you're like, well, I'll procrastinate and avoid that until it's urgent. So figuring out what those points look like, so that you are proactively working on that sustainability part of your business.
Fabulous. Yeah, don't try to spin all those plates, they will drop. I know from experience.
Yes.
Yes. Our friend Bernard will make it a reappearance.
Yeah. Any last questions for Beth before I pass back over to Claire?
Nope, all good here.
Beth, where can people find you, and what do you offer?
What a great question. So in terms of where people can find me, I'm doing my own big scary things, which means that I am trying lots of different social media platforms. Yes, all the scary things. And I always say, I can't expect a client to be able to do something that I haven't yet grappled with myself, right? So I am trialing Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media things. So you can find me there, and I'm sure the links will be in the show notes, fingers crossed. I do tend to hang out probably more at the moment on LinkedIn. So more of my information is probably up to date on LinkedIn. Who knows at this point? Now I'm going to write myself a to-do so that I can go and check it out. But those are the typical spaces people can find me. Also, I'm a firm supporter in whatever works best for you. So my contact details via email and SMS are readily available on the internet. Communicate with me and what works best for you, and we will take it from there. And then in terms of what I offer, virtual one-to-one coaching support in a very comprehensive capacity for individual clients. I don't have a particular age range I work with. I tend to work more with adults upwards, but again, not really a super specification there. So if anyone resonates with my approach and finds themselves feeling stuck or confused or uninspired by, you know, whatever their various spaces are in life, and they need a bit of support figuring that out, then I could absolutely be the right person to help. And the only way we'll be able to clarify that is to get on a discovery call to see if I'm the right person to help. Because as with any type of, you know, journey like this, what I would always say is it's really important for you to find the right practitioner for you. So I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that is exactly why we've got different coaches that offer, you know, different things in different formats, and that is absolutely okay. So go and explore that and discover what works best for you. And indeed, if that is a discovery call with me, then my details will be online to be able to find. And then in terms, yeah, as I said, of the offers, I work on that one-to-one basis. And I also support organizations. So if there are any businesses that are sitting there wanting to tear their hair out or not know how to navigate a particular situation that they might find challenging, that is completely understandable, and exactly why Neuroinclusive Link exists. So we can absolutely come on board and help you to create a much more neuro-inclusive practice in your workplace, which will increase the psychological safety. And as a result of that, you will see increased productivity and increased well-being, which ultimately not only saves you money, but also saves your workforce. So that is what I'm super passionate about. If you're an individual or an organization, come check it out and we'll see how we can help.
Well, thank you so much. So thank you for joining us 3Spoonies on ADHD in Business. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a review. You can find us on social media, and we'd love it if you join the Business Success Network for Disabled Entrepreneurs Facebook group. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what we do. All of our links will be in the show notes. We will see you next week, back with Beth for our community questions. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.